Kinfolk, welcome to another episode of the Black Owned Podcast. I am your host, the main man with the game plan, and the game plan ain't the same plan. I've been a major figure since baby pictures. Janice's oldest boy, Sincere, is definitely in the building, and I got my co-host with me.
Hello, everybody. Y'all know it's Peaches. You guys know why I'm here. Let's get it started.
Hey, look, you know what I'm saying? We about to talk a little bit about politics, and, she usually be yo. Today, hello, everyone. She already getting a politic game. Well, I like it. Like it.
Let me relax. Bring it
That's
back.
what's up, man. Of course, some housekeeping before we get started. Please ensure that you like and share this live, that you follow us on all of our social media platforms. We are at the Black Owned Podcast on all social media platforms. Please follow us there. And as usual, we are about almost 750 strong on Facebook. Nowhere near that on YouTube. Please go over to YouTube, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, so you'll get notified whenever we go live, because we don't just go live on Facebook, we go live on YouTube as well. So please go over there and hit that subscribe button for me, if you will. Peaches, what's cracking?
Yes.
What's been going on this week?
Hello, everybody. Y'all know it's Peaches. You guys know why I'm here. Let's get it started.
Notified whenever we go live. Somebody got their stuff on. What's going on?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I'm back now.
Okay, there you go.
Today we're gonna have a great show. Of course, y'all know we have one of the favorites of all times that has appeared. Dr. Cornelius Jones.
Dr. Cornelius Jones. He's like the local everything around this mug, ain't he? He's our local our local therapist, local author.
And soon to be local politician.
Okay, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah. And that's cool.
Along with that, we have Mike Jones, no, I'm just playing, not the same guy. I don't want to get you guys confused, but we definitely have a Mike Jones from Texas. He is a judge. I'm going to correct myself. Honorable Mike Jones.
Yes, the Honorable Mike Jones. We having these gentlemen on, but of course we can't forget we got the Black Owned Business of the Week. We're speaking to Mr. Barkeem Barr, who is the president of EB Radio Network, and we'll be talking to him a little bit about what's going on. But I want to speak about one thing that's definitely going on. That's Derek Jackson, your boy, all over the news, ain't it? Nah.
What I tell you, I say every time, them Bible thumpers and those holier than thou ones, you gotta watch them.
Gotta keep both eyes on them. I'm trying to tell you, bud.
That was the new Steve Harvey,
Look, seriously. But he was the thing. I was never really a Derek Jackson fan. I ain't like him because, of course, every time, you know what I'm saying, he was catering and pandering to black women. He was kicking black men in the midsection, if you will, you know what I'm saying, in order to do so.
With him, but you like Samuel, what's his name?
Kevin Samuels. That's my man's in there.
Samuels, that's your
He might be just as dirty.
That's a fact.
That he might be just as dirty, you know what I'm talking about. But I like him. Yeah, but it's still a lot of people riding for him. But back to Derek Jackson, I heard all of the tapes. Did you hear the tapes?
No, I didn't.
Man, he violated so many codes. It was ridiculous. Like, he just he talked bad about his wife to his little side pieces or whatever. Homie had a whole nother abode, a whole nother home in Atlanta that wifey didn't know about for a considerable portion of the marriage.
Okay, this is where we run into these issues at. It's our intuition. It was something that was given to us by God. That gut feeling.
Right.
No, it's around for a reason.
Yeah, it's real too.
This is a whole man out here. Like, he didn't get caught because she wasn't looking. Or she wasn't paying attention to the signs. There's always going to be a sign or a flag to make you style him every now and again. Right. You're not just going to be out here all willy-nilly and going on without your girlfriend don't. We notice good patterns. You start doing things you ain't used to do. You start wanting things you want to argue and run out. We know. We peep game, but thank God that he has the woman that he has. Because with me, if you'd have went,
it'd be a little different story.
I'd have been
It'd be
right.
a whole different story, right? Okay, seriously. Hey, seriously.
Probably
Hey.
before the Honorable Mike Jones. No, I'm just playing. You know,
Hey,
civil
but
matter.
shout out to G Man. Of course, he's tuned in as usual. We appreciate you, Unc. Now we're gonna go. Let's go into this. Let's go into Peaches Picks. Let's get it started.
Okay, Peaches Picks. They're not gonna be long and drawn out. We have a great lineup for the show today, so not gonna hold y'all. My first one is all the prayers to all the southern states that's going through this turmoil with this weather. You know,
Right.
before now, if we didn't believe global warming and the effects on utilizing the unsustainable resources, the natural resources of the world, we're seeing firsthand the effects of the poor choices that we made in the past. Hopefully, we can do our part to propel ourselves into a more sustainable energy, looking
Right.
into things that will not only save us money, but preserve the world for our great grandkids and they're beyond.
Right.
But we're praying for them. I know these tornadoes has touched Alabama. 3 lives has already been lost. And
We had some in Texas. We had some in Texas as well. Some tornadoes touched down. So yeah, I mean, and you're right with the whole global warming thing. I mean, because when just this year when we got all of the snow that it it never happens in at least not in this in Texas period it doesn't happen, and then we kind of got we got some real snow for not just a day or two either, for about a solid week. I mean, so
that's why it's important for us not only to look at the items that are significant to the Black community, but we have to look at changing the laws based on items and voting on amendments and addendums to certain things that'll further propel us into a sustainable earth. My next topic is I'm drawing the blank. What did I say I was going to talk about? Oh, yes, the children on the border. As you guys see, 46 has been on the TV like all day for the last weeks in regards to the children at the border.
Right.
And they're looking at opening up new facilities to house these children. I get it. We're still trying to to maintain that level of big brotherhood in the world.
Right.
However, we have the same problems here. Only difference is the children aren't at the borders. They're sleeping under these bridges and in friends' houses and on in houses that's full of lead poison, as we was talking about with Walter Patton.
Right.
Flint, Michigan still is in a state of array
with the brown water.
Now, my thing is this: if we start doing everything like we do with our housekeeping, like I always push taking care of your backyard first, looking at these local and state elections before you look at these big ones as far as who's gonna be president. We have to do that housekeeping. I know if a child come knocking on my door and say that they don't have anywhere to go, I'm not welcoming them into my home. I have to protect mine. Secondly, we're talking about a generation of children who has grown off on a defense mode the entire time. And I'm speaking for me, not Mark. So, when you think about it, when did we jump off the porch? 13, 14? So you got maybe earlier than that, depending on what your mom and daddy was doing,
Right. Yeah.
We have to look at that. And as far as protecting our peace, protecting our children, and being able to build, because if we're letting in criminals based off of an age, when they come over here, they're not looking at it as I'm a child and I just want, everybody, not everybody's bad. I'm not saying that, but some people come slip through the cracks. I mean, there should be something at that border. And when does Mexico have to, take ownership for what's being done? Why is it that they're at the border and they're not being stopped well before they get there? You know what I mean? Why isn't there anything in place? these trade agreements and everything else. We need to start just like when we were fighting the drug war that we created.
Right.
There was we stopped doing business with them until they conform to what we needed to happen. So we don't have to turn the children away, but we need to start setting some type of buffers in place so that we're not on the hook for being protectors and providers of
Right.
something that we shouldn't have to. And our backyard is dirty.
The only thing I have an issue with, when we're talking about that is, for one, the difference between children that are here and unfortunately being put in a situation where they may be homeless and and have to lay their hair wherever they may. And the difference between those children at the border is that circumstances and situations not of their own put those people in the homeless situation. Whereas I feel like those children, from Mexico were put in this particular situation, meaning where they're coming to cross the border and they are being put in cages. I don't think that's effective. That's not the manner that we should handle that in. And wait, because I know you're going to say something. The only thing that we have to correct is the path to citizenship. Like, that needs to be clearly defined. You can talk to some people who've come here and gained citizenship and it took them 3 years. You can talk to some people and it took them 23 years to get the same citizenship. Like, what is the clear path to gaining that citizenship? And we even know people that are serving our country actively in the military,
right?
And there's a delay on them gaining citizenship. And that's the issue that I have with it, is that we still haven't corrected our portion of it. Now, if our portion was correct and all good, and then there were some types of issues that were being pushed on to us in that system, then I would say, okay, well, the system works and it's effective. You guys need to get your act together. But that we can't say that currently.
Yeah, but we can complain and say what's wrong. But if none of us is offering a viable solution, then isn't we fall into the little crater where it's like, do I be silent about this because I don't have a solution, or do I speak? We don't have a solution. Everybody's pointing a finger right now. 46 is pointed at 45. 45 is pointed at 46 and his predecessors. Nobody is taking responsibility for what's going on. We have all these trade agreements with Mexico. Even if we wanted to house them, it should be some type of agreement where those facilities will be set up, spread across the border.
Right.
That way, we're stopping it before it gets further. That way, we have something in place to kind of weed out some of them. Some people gonna slip through the cracks, but we got to be the crime and the different things. These people are fighting for their life. Nobody's safe. Right. They'll take you out if that means that they may have a stay. Dog world. But something needs to be done, and I think it would be having some type of talks and agreement so that they can come up in place, like I said, and establish those facilities that they're stating that they want to build on that side of the border.
Right. I definitely feel that. Well, what I'm saying, more fire. I appreciate it. That was Peach's Picks for the day. We're gonna get right into our Black-owned business of the week. And today we have with us Mr. Barkeem Barr, who is the president of EB Radio. Mr. Barr, welcome.
Hey, good evening, everybody.
Good to see you. First, tell us. I know it's EB, but it's also like EBO or something. Can you tell us what that means?
Yes. So the EB in our company stands for Emerging Black.
Right.
EBO is Emerging Black Orlando. So we originated in Jacksonville about 4 years ago. Then we branched out. Yes.
I'm sorry.
I'm from Duval County.
I do that every time.
Duval County. And about 2.5 years ago, we opened up our Orlando branch, and that's where I came in. So myself and my wife, we run the Orlando branch of our parent company, which is called EB Network.
Okay. All right. So you said you've been doing this for about a year.
The radio station has been live for about a year. The company, EB Network, has been about 4.5 years. EBO is about 2.5 years old.
So when we started EB Network, as it's the oldest of them all,
yes.
What was the vision there? We're going to take EB Network and make it what?
EB Network primarily is a branding company. We do branding for small businesses, advertising, and marketing. So that was the initial inception. And we do that through videography. We do commercials for small businesses. We do music videos as far as the videography is concerned. We've even done, like I said, commercials, videography. We do podcasts for not ourselves. We create our own content, as well as we create content for those who just have the ideas and don't have the capacity to have the video content and the editing. Photography as well. We do social media management, website designs, logo designs. So generally anything having to do with advertising and marketing on a social media front, that's the inception of EB Network.
Congratulations.
Thank you. About a year ago, getting into the radio station, we decided to branch off into the radio market to create an avenue for advertisement. So like I said, back on January 13th of 2020, we launched EB Radio. It is internet-based. Our listeners listen via a free app that they can download from any Android device, any Apple device, and even Alexa. So you can just add the skill to your Alexa and just say, Alexa, play EB Radio, and then she starts playing. And just like a classic radio station, whatever's going on at the time when you decide to open up the app, that's what you hear. As far as the music that you hear, it is going to be primarily hip hop, R&B, top 40, dancehall, reggae, old school hip hop, classic soul music. That's what you're going to primarily get when you listen to the music on EB Radio. So as well as podcasts as well.
One thing that I like is somebody getting feedback?
No. There's no bars on my sound bar, so.
Okay. One thing that I like about this segment is when we are able to cover Black-owned businesses that's outside of the norm. Of course, music and talking is something that Black people are very effective at.
We are.
You know what I'm saying? So I hear you, with that. But what made you, what kind of, and especially when I know you started as the EB Network, which was a little bit different, but then you kind of pivoted into the radio industry. And how did that come about?
Well, the pivot for me always came from I have a general love for music personally. I am born and raised New Yorker, so I'm from the Bronx. I spent the first 32 years of my life back home in New York. So music, especially hip hop, that was the soundtrack of my life. I recite hip hop music and R&B music at the drop of a dime. So when we decided to create the radio station, it was a natural progression for me to move to that point to manage the radio station. So I listen to music constantly. I'm a fan of all different genres, all different eras when it comes to like the hip hop and the R&B. So I'm not one that's like, oh, well, back in the 90s when I was a kid. No. I love everything from Jay-Z to Little Uzi Vert. And you're going to hear a little bit of that all over the radio station.
For me, yeah, that's definitely been going on with my mic. Of course, when doing business, you have to delineate a market segment. You say you love all genres. So yes. What do? Do you have like a list, like what's going on Monday and what's going on in this time slot? Because how do you combine oldies but goodies with Southern hip hop with New York, because I'm not a fan of, the boogie Bronx, like AOB type of, stuff, unless it's URL or something to that matter.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
How do you, because if I turn on the radio and I, of course we want to support, and I go to it and it's little Uzi Vert, that's the little guy with the red hair, and I listen to it, I changed the radio station, what's gonna make me go back and give it another shot?
Right. Well, that's a very good question. There's going to be two different things that you'll find on EB Radio. When it comes to the type of music you hear, the rotation is very intentional with what you're hearing. So you will hear you might hear two songs that'll be from the South. You might hear one song that's going to be more contemporary and general top 40 hip hop. That might be the little Uzi Verts. Then you might hear an R&B song from the 90s from California. It's intentional on how the rotation goes. And then on top of that, on the weekends, we are very intentional in the type of music that we play. So for instance, on Saturdays, we have a segment called Caribbean Vibes, and that is strictly Caribbean music. So for those that love the soca, they love the Afro beats, they love the dance hall music, this is where you're gonna get it. If you are a person that loves like old school hip hop from all genres, we have a show called Can I Kick It? That is just all old school hip hop, not even R&B, just hip hop. So for those heads that want to hear that Master P, they want to hear that Jay-Z, they want to hear that Rakim, that's the show for you.
Okay, so is there somewhere that's listed so I know when to tune in, or is it's just hit or miss?
No, if you go to our EB Network website, you can go to the EB Radio portion of that, and you can see the schedule. I'm sorry? I'm sorry?
What's the web address?
Oh, it is EB Network. It's eb1network.com. And once you go there, you just hit the radio tab, and then you'll be on our radio page, and you'll be able to see our scheduler. And also what you can do on there, you can actually request music. So if you have a particular type of genre, you have a particular song that you want to hear, there's a request tab right on the website that allows you to type in the name of an artist or a song, and then it goes into the queue. Now, we don't let people dictate and put in 70 songs and they can hear Master P all day or whoever all day, but it does allow you some flexibility in that. And then there's also, you can reach out to me directly. My email is info.eb1radio@gmail.com. And if you ever have an opportunity, you have an idea or a song that you want to hear, you can just email me. You can go to our EB Radio group page, which is the EB Radio group, and join the group and then post something. Hey, that new song. I'm sorry.
I was going to ask if you have something like available for like up and coming artists who might want to submit their music to you.
I absolutely do. If you go to our EB Radio page, we've just put a post up, and we're always looking for new artists. So I'm actually creating an actual show that's going to showcase local and new artists. Right. What I'm always available doing is if an artist has an opportunity, they have a song that they want to break, that's part of what we're here for. We want to be a hub for unsigned new talent, new artists that are looking to get a foot in the door, looking to get an opportunity on the radio, because realistically, SoundCloud and those opportunities are really, really great, but they're highly saturated. And it's very much a niche to get people to come to speak to you, as opposed to your stuff is in rotation on a radio station. So we give an opportunity for the new artists to get their things on the radio station. And realistically, if you're looking to purchase time on a more established or older radio station, unless your pockets are quite deep, that's probably not going to happen for you.
Yeah. And I was
talking about how you guys did the thing with the DJs. That's something that I know a lot of people maybe want to be interested in, like the Coco's and the up and coming DJs, or the ones that are lit.
Yes.
How do they get a chance or get a sample of their demo or anything to kind of audition to get a spot on your show?
They can reach out to me directly, either through the group, through my email. Like I said, it's info.eb1radio@gmail.com. I'll send you guys to you so you guys can post it if you need to. And I always have a show every week called DJ Showcase, where we do just that. Normally, I'm always sort of reaching out to DJs and giving them opportunities, but it is always welcome to have someone reach out to me. They simply would just create a mix, have it to us. We would promote it before it airs. You get your people to listen to it, and it's all about helping people kind of get their break.
And you know what? I'm hip to the fact that we're moving more towards kind of like this digital landscape across industries. But back in the days, you had the little radio station. There was a brick and mortar building that you can go to, and a radio station had a personality. How are you able to try to invoke a steady personality for EB radio so that people know, because you knew that DJ such and such was coming on at this time. You knew that the morning show was coming on, at this time, and you tuned in at the proper time because you wanted to, if you had a favorite show or you had a favorite DJ, and that kind of lends to the entire personality of the radio station. How do you kind of navigate those waters, be it, digitally now, rather than the usual brick and mortar? And are you under the same FCC rules?
Actually, no, because we're internet based. It's very much like Sirius, so we don't have content rules as far as language is concerned. So you will tend to hear some of the more explicit versions of music. And to answer your question, that's sort of where our podcasters come in. So we also allow podcasters to air their content on the station. While we're doing that, we're promoting them as a podcast, and they're helping to bring personalities specifically to the radio station. Right. And then also, and I'm quite sure my wife will love this, that's where I also come in. I am graduating to be much more of a face on a physical level and an audio level for EB radio. So the same way, in the same vein that when you think about Bad Boy, you think about Diddy, you think about Rockefeller, you think about Jay, you think about No Limit, you think Master P. Right. That's what we're going for. So I definitely appreciate the opportunity to be on your podcast, because this kind of lends to that as well. My wife will tell you that I'm not necessarily adept, I would say, to being on camera, not necessarily where I'm comfortable at, but anything for the company, so this is where we are.
Well, so we have a question from one of the audience members, and they asked, do you guys do news, weather, sports, etc.?
We are graduating into that. I actually have a podcast on the way that's going to be tackling news and sports specifically. It will be very morning show like. Won't get into all the details. It's something that's really special that we got on the horizon. But that's where we're taking the radio station. We're creating some exclusive, some original content to kind of cover those major genres of opinion. So we got the sports, we'll have the radio. We'll eventually get to a point where there will be some consistent news, but then we get a lot of that from our podcasters. Right. So, with the current events, just like you guys were talking about, the Jackson, Mr. Action Jackson, we get a lot of that from the podcasters as well. And then through our social media, we're very interactive with what's going on.
Okay. Well, I know that we know a couple of other, podcasters that also are looking to do network type of things, as well. So it was good to actually, be able to sit down with you, talk about, how things got started with the network and then pivoting into the radio, still maintaining the network,
Absolutely.
But move
It's
it
all
into
about the
the
network.
right, move it into the radio aspect. So we appreciate you coming on. You have any shout outs or anything that you want to give before you go, and definitely let them know where they can reach out to you if they need to.
Absolutely. So, any artists, any DJs, any potential podcasters, feel free to reach out to me via my email address, which is info.eb1radio@gmail.com. You could even look me up by my name on Facebook. It's Barkeem Bar. I promise you, there's not very many Barkeem Bars on Facebook. I've looked.
Right.
And if you want to just listen to the music, you want to just be, a part of the EB Radio family, go and download the app. It's EB Radio. You're going to see a black icon with white wording and yellow around the box. That's us, EB Radio. And we're here for the people. I'm always open to opinions. You guys can email me if you got a song that you want us to air on the radio station. That's what we're about. I'm all about bringing in new content, new artists, new DJs for our various shows.
Mm-hmm.
And if you are in the Florida area, be on the lookout for some things that are going to come on so you can directly meet some of us. I won't get into all the details right now, but we're looking to kind of put ourselves directly in front of our fans.
Okay.
So thank you, Mr. Barr. We appreciate you coming on, giving us some of your time.
Thank you.
We wish you continued success. And you know what? Maybe I think I'm going to reach out to you, and we'll chop it up and talk about some things. All right.
Absolutely.
All right, brother. Thank you. I appreciate you for coming on, man. I appreciate you for your time.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the opportunity. You guys have a blessed one.
You too. Hey, so just like Mr. Barr, if anybody knows of or owns themselves a Black-owned business, and you'd like to highlight that business at our Black-owned business of the week, please email us right here at this address. Also, we need some shout outs. I haven't asked for shout outs in a long time, but if you want to, do a little shout out on your phone and then send it to us, you can send it to us at that email as well, and then we'll share it here on the on the live. All right, let's get down to business for what we're really here to talk about, which is the importance of voting locally. When we speak about voting, of course, everybody knows about the national elections, which includes your presidents and all this other kind of things. But what's more important to you and to the community, and what's going to affect us every day, is the local vote. So the local vote is, of course, is going to be for your local judges, your local attorneys, your district attorneys, your local school superintendents, things of that nature. And that's what we need to be kind of concerned about when we're talking about voting locally. And today, we are luckily enough to have two guests on. So I want to make sure I get this introduction, these introductions down correct, because these gentlemen certainly have, achieved some things, and I want to make sure that I get that right. First, we're going to introduce Dr. Cornelius Jones, who you guys have seen on the show in our earlier days when we first got started. Sorry that I'm looking down, but I'm reading from my phone. All right. So right now, Dr. Cornelius Jones is a candidate for Florida House of Representatives, District 18. In 2013, he took part in the grassroots campaign that collected over 10,000 signatures on the federal voting rights for nonviolent felon petitions. Later that year, he met with Reverend Jesse Jackson and Congresswoman Corrine Brown to generate national support for the petition. That effort contributed to an Amendment 4, which led to the voting rights restoration for nonviolent felons. So, welcome to the show, Dr. Cornelius Jones.
Thank you all for having me on again, as well as for that wonderful introduction, Mark.
No problem. Also joining us today is Judge Michael Jones. He is the presiding judge of the Justice of the Peace Court located in Precinct 4, and this is here in Texas, so I'm very glad to have him on. He was elected as Justice of the Peace for Precinct 4-1 in 2018. Judge Jones has over 25 years of experience in city government, real estate, and higher education. He also has a background in the project management, property management, municipal budgets, departmental reorganization, and civil contracts field, a man of many hats. So please, if you will, also join me in welcoming Judge Mike Jones. Good sir, how are you doing?
Hey, I'm good. How you doing now? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we're doing. I can hear you, and I want to thank both of you guys for giving us just a little bit of your time. I know you both are busy and have a lot of things going on, so we want to jump right into it. Peaches could not wait for this to happen, so I'm going to hand it over to her.
Hello, everybody. We can skip the formality. We already did that. First, I want to start with Dr. Jones. You know, this is one of my favorites that has been on the show, so of course I have to give him a hard time, ask him the hard questions because you know we know that he's gonna keep it honest and not saying that you won't, but I know that we're gonna keep it honest. First, I want to know, how did you evolve from a military man to a psychologist to a book author to politics?
Thank you for that question. I have always been very close and followed politics throughout the years. The reality of being in the military active duty, I was limited on my ability to get involved. So during my time on recruiting duty when I was in Louisiana, I had the opportunity to take part of a state senator's re-election campaign. So I really enjoyed that and gained that experience. And throughout the years, I've always done things from a community and grassroots standpoint. And now was certainly the season for me to get involved. Now that I'm no longer affiliated with the military, and I have that real freedom and ability to talk about the issues that are important. Now, in regards to that transition, I believe that when you have the heart of the people, you're always going to find a way to be involved with the issues that are important to people.
Indeed.
So,
indeed.
What are those?
Hold on, we'll come back to him. Judge Jones, again, thank you for joining us. My first question for you is, what made you decide to take the route to become a judge? And I asked that because a little bit of your background, you came up a little rough. And so I like at what point does the mind say this is the direction that we're going?
Well, simple question, but I'm gonna give you a long answer.
Okay.
I get that pretty frequently. Some years back, you know, a lot of tensions was going on between law enforcement and of course the African American community, and it creates, you know, some type of fire and a little bit of, you know, not anxiety, but want to do your part into it. And to make it simple, I actually served on city council. It was a local election a few years prior. And so when that opportunity came available, and especially with all things going on, it was really a perfect fit to kind of get to that, to, you know, run for that position, because people run for positions because a lot of times there's an issue or there's a need. And at that time, this specific court, one of the lowest courts that you can run into, the ones that really serve the community, was really a service to the public. And I saw that as an opportunity to, you know, to give back to the community and give back to the judicial system. And, you know, that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Okay, so it wasn't just something where you say, hey, I want to be a judge, but it was kind of a perfect storm of things that kind of directed you in that area.
You know what's crazy is I actually didn't like judges. I actually didn't like law enforcement, but I love them now, and I see it from this side. So really, when you work in city government and local municipal government, start serving for the community, you start, you know, growing more interest, and you start creating a different type of love for it or different type of bond for it.
Awesome. Go ahead, Pete.
My question is, we know Texas is a red state, and in order to be successful, you have to rub elbows with people from the other side. Like I read that you're running for the Democratic Party. Now,
Right.
How do you remain successful? And as far as first off, let's start. Are you a full-time or a part-time judge?
You can say full time. It's pretty flexible, but for the most part, let's just say full time.
Okay, I'm asking because I noticed that you have the commercial real estate background.
Mhm.
So, how has this influenced your need or the importance of voting with, the COVID-19, how everyone has adjusted, and the advancement of tech has been, extremely, it's pushed, like surpassed what it was this time last year. How does the laws that are in place now make you want to change? Because everybody about their money, real estate looks like that's your cup of tea. So how are you rubbing these elbows to kind of push that agenda and get these people back into these buildings where you make your money by doing a courtship type and the Democratic part, or kind of doing what's best for the people? What's your equal medium?
Oh, you talking balance? Yeah, because you had a whole bunch of that question.
Yeah, it was loaded.
Yeah, so I listened pretty good, so I'm gonna answer all of it. So the first portion of it, Texas, yes, is a red state. However, this last presidential election brought out more of a blue in the state. I would say purple is going to run when I'm turning blue. Most of the metropolitan, the big city areas, they are blue. City of San Antonio, city of Houston, Dallas County, even Tarrant County beside us. So a lot of the major populated areas of Texas actually is blue. And so a lot of the rural areas are the one that's majority red. So it kind of, is more of a balance on it. But a lot of people are getting more, I'm not going to say woke, that's a blanket term, but they're starting to be more attentive to what's going on and how they're being affected. So that's why Texas is starting to turn blue, along with a lot of people from California that are moving from Texas that's currently, a blue state. So you have a lot of those mixtures that's going on for that portion. And so when we talk, so let me now dive in. I talk about the daily duties. As a judge, we have certain docket times and docket days and how we run our courthouse to be more efficient. And so you don't have to necessarily be behind a bench all day, every day for it. As long as you manage your courthouse correctly, documents are getting pushed, you'll be fine. And that's where I'm at, because I'm about the efficiency and effectiveness, which is one of the things that was coincidental as part of my reelection campaign.
Right.
I've worked right now. I'm actually serving on their committees. It's called a steering committee to get software, because we're still using paper. Like literally, we're in a century, we're using paper still. And so I get, thousands of cases. I would say, for sure about 8,000 eviction cases a year. I could get anywhere about almost 20,000 debt claim cases a year. And so you got to be able to run your office or your courthouse really efficient. So that's one thing that I was able to kind of do as well. And because at the same time, I still have to serve the community. I do Meals on Wheels, which means I actually get out, get in my vehicle, pick up meals, and deliver them to the less fortunate citizens in the area. I cover 8 cities. And so I make it my point to do my part in each individual city. Now, when we talk about the commercial real estate aspect of it, because I do primary commercial real estate, I'm the actual broker as well. So not necessarily I'm actually running anything. I am I pretty much more of an administrative portion of it. Most of the stuff I do it before I get there and a little bit after when I get home. So, but my wife actually is actually our both of our company, so she's really actually doing all the running for it. Now, when you talk about rubbing elbows and things like that, being in a commercial real estate background, it's only like 3 or 5% of African Americans actually in the industry nationwide. Could be 7% plus or minus. And so I kind of have that gift to be able to be in a room with a lot of people who don't even look like me, or I'm the only person that's oddball, make conversations, and just because based off my personality, I can be able to make those relationships. So I've been pretty effective on that because, to be honest, I see all perspectives. I see the Democratic perspective. I see libertarians. I see Republicans' perspective, so I'm pretty effective in reaching out all of those as well. Because a lot of people that's honestly Republican voted for me in my Democratic election. So
and just to let everybody in the chat know, I see your questions over there, and we definitely going to get to those questions because that some of those are very good questions. So we're going to make sure that we ask both of the candidates here questions. Going over to you, Doctor, is what was the turning point, if you will, that kind of got you to say, hey, this is what I need to do. This is what I need to do as far as running for office. And in that, what are you talking about doing for your district once you become elected?
Thank you for that question, Mark. I think there has been no shortage of things that have piqued my interest as well as motivated me to go ahead and put my name in the hat for office. As you know, you and I, we've talked about this for a number of years. And at one point, you and your wife were going to be a part of the campaign efforts. But this was the appropriate season. After seeing so many things that have continued to go wrong, I just couldn't sit back any longer and complain. And I think that the only way that we can have a voice at the table, we have to first put ourselves in position to sit down and be there to impact laws, to write legislation. So for me, that's what it was about. It wasn't about talking and following the Facebook posts where people were pretty much upset about things that have been going on with social issues and judicial reform, the state of politics, the economy. So I figured that it was now or never for me to get engaged and to put my name out there so that I can get in office to make that change. And in regards to some of the things that are near and dear to me, is fair treatment. I believe that equality itself has been overused throughout the years, and there's no way that we can ensure that equality is an illusion. It sounds good, but it's impossible to really exist. And I give you all a prime example of what I'm thinking of when I speak of that. If you consider two parents of the same child, one has a natural right and one has a birthright. Well, one has to go to court to establish a legal right. Where's the equality in that for both of those parents for the same child? And that thing goes in so many different directions, but it sounds good when we speak of equality. So what we can do is we can make sure that there are laws in place where people are treated fairly, because to say that equality itself, there's no guarantee that anybody's going to uphold it. So that's my piece on fair treatment in diversity. A huge part of that also for me is closing the pay gap for women. I believe that women who have the same experience, the same credentials, definitely deserve the same pay as their male counterparts. Mm-hmm. And I don't understand how in this day and time that's still an issue, but obviously there has to be more that's done to ensure that these women are getting an opportunity to earn the same thing as men, especially when you consider that women, especially Black women in particular, are the most educated group of women in this entire country. So there should be no reason that they aren't getting paid what they deserve. Another part for me is, another part of my agenda is healthcare and mental health. I think that when it comes to that, there's a lot of criminalization when it comes to mental health. I've had people who've had to be Baker Act, and I understand that officers do it for their own protection. But when you take a person who displays suicidal ideations and you put them in handcuffs and you treat them like a criminal, even though you're taking them to a facility, the likelihood of that person to contact you again when they're in distress it's reduced. You may not get that chance. So why not train officers on how to deal with people with mental health? And I think that Texas.
Okay, we spoke about that. I know you educated us about that on the last show. And I think it was Houston speaking, which is that actually teaches those officers how to interact with people with mental health issues. Is that something that you feel like you could kind of push the agenda on in Florida?
Yes, in fact, I've already spoken and have a meeting planned to speak with the sheriff here in Clay County about that very thing, about installing a mental health unit for that very purpose, so that those individuals can be treated the right way. And another piece of that, and this falls under judicial reform to a certain degree, but we have to stop decriminalizing individuals who have substance abuse issues. Having an addiction isn't a crime, it's a health issue, and they deserve to be treated so. And I know Judge Jones, when some of these people come before you all in court, they are, required to go to treatment facilities and do some work and things of that nature. But that's not in every court, and that's not a universal standard. And that's something that I certainly want to see change. And one of the next things that's near dear to me that I definitely want to impact change with is victims of domestic violence. I know that we currently have statutes here in the state of Florida that protects those individuals, but unfortunately, there still is more that can be done. And what I mean by that, the same way that we require for sex offenders to wear ankle monitors, one of my goals is to push for individuals who are awaiting adjudication to have to wear an ankle monitor to ensure that they do not go back to re-victimize the individual while they are waiting for their trial dates. Little things like that, protection measures can go a long way. So those are some of the things.
Okay, we're living in a world, and we're speaking, from a not hypothetically, from a reality standpoint. I understand what you're saying, and that'll save may save lives. However, do you feel like that can possibly ruin other people's lives? We have women and men who go out here and know that if they call the police and that this man is going to fight these charges, and by them being black, most of the time they're often guilty until proven innocent. So here we are. We have a man who is an active member of society, dead, contributing to the workplace. Now we have a monitor on this man, and we have to show him in a different light. And then once he's proven guilty,
hold up. Only because I want to make sure that we maintain on the topic at hand, because that's going to go somewhere else. I want to ask both of you this question, and this has to do with what the show is about, which is the importance of voting locally. Now we know, especially Peaches is very passionate about, in particular, with all of these. I think it's 33 states.
42
that are
laws,
right, that are looking to restrict, voter registration even more than what it is currently. So I know that she'd appreciate it, but how important do you guys think it is to vote locally, and then why? And we'll start with Judge Jones.
Two things. One, I actually served on the city council before, local city municipal election, and it was very important because back then, when we had the issue with law enforcement as well, I actually was the one that led the charge for the city to be able to get body cameras for the police officers. And the police officers in that town, the town is not very old, not even 100 years old, I believe, but you had a lot of, I'm not scared to say, a lot of bias or racist cops that was there. Then, as you talk about now, I'm on the county elections where I'm representing multiple cities. If you have a person in my position, it would be a disservice if you come in and you want to sue somebody who owes you some money, or you want to evict somebody who's been staying in your house and, or domestic violence situation, things like that. And sometimes you may have some judges that are not in these positions that don't have the judicial compassion to be able to identify or even selectively choose or be able to correctly administer a judgment in the favor of the victim. So a lot of it is biased, and then some of it goes back to the way laws are currently written.
Okay, Dr. Jones.
Well, I certainly support what Judge Jones just said. I think it's extremely important for us to be involved in local elections because that's the stuff that happens right in our backyards. Most people pay attention to things that happen on a federal level, but are unaware of what's taking place within their state as well as their counties, which is a danger all by itself. When there aren't services available, then there are complaints that's being made. But where were you during those city council meetings? Where were you when there was an opportunity to go and speak up? Because the likelihood of you getting in front of, Congress and senators are highly unlikely. So you have to take advantage of the individuals that's local. And in regards to what Peaches was saying earlier about 43 states that are currently passing laws for voter suppression, just today in Georgia Senate voted 34 to 20 in a sweeping bill to restrict voting. So now it's just waiting on Governor Kemp's signature. And this thing is taking place across the nation. But here's something even more sinister. This goes back to 2006 when the Supreme Court, 2006, what actually took place was there was a portion of the 1965 Voting Rights Act that had expired. And it went before the Supreme Court on June the 25th, 2013. And the Supreme Court, they basically did not renew that particular part, which prevents the same thing that we're witnesses for happening. But the very next day, on June 26, 2013, what they did to overshadow their bad decision making is they signed the Marriage Act into law. And most people were so excited about that they were distracted about what took place on a larger level. So what we're seeing now is the evidence of that Voting Rights Act not being upheld back in 2013. That's why you're seeing so much of this stuff.
And look, and we know that just like Judge Jones said earlier about voters becoming more educated about what's going on and how important it is to vote, and because of that, it showed in that 2020 election, and now they're rushing to change some of the bills to try to block something like that from happening, which happened in Georgia, of course, and Arizona, that flipped those states for Democrats. Excuse me. But before we get in, I have some stats here that I'm with some things here that I kind of want to get you guys' thoughts on. But before we get into that, exactly how substantial was that being able to flip Georgia and Arizona in the 2020 national election? Dr. Jones, we'll start with you.
It was extremely important, right? As we know that that changed the course of history with having Mr. Trump serve 2 terms. And that's what agitated and aggravated members of the GOP, and the reason they're moving so swiftly to try to prevent people from voting in the 2022 election and moving forward. In terms of, it had a really great impact because a lot of the concerns that I believe that citizens had prior to under the Trump administration, those have been relaxed. We still have a lot of racial tension taking place, but it was nowhere near what it was just a few short months ago. So, it really, Stacey Abrams being able to mobilize and get people involved, she was certainly heaven sent, and she created a blueprint to show each of us what can really be done when people come together and they collaborate for a greater cause.
No doubt. Judge Jones, what are your thoughts?
Regarding the voting right?
No, the significance of the turnout that wound up flipping Georgia and Arizona.
Well, I mean, it goes back to what you had just said. You know, people are more educated because, to be honest, people get woke all day, but guess what? They go back to sleep. You hear time and time, everybody uproars, and we all vote, we all protest and whatever, and then we stop.
Right.
So that was, and again, from this perspective, people are becoming more educated, and I think that even though they are restricting things, you're still going to have individuals, you're still going to have people ground root that's going to help combat a lot of these restrictions. So you can have more people, more boots on the ground for that. But I wasn't surprised they was doing that stuff. I mean, it's all goes back to retaliation. Got a
Right.
whole, and I hate to say it, you got a bunch of guys who've been in the Senate and House 30, 40 some years, no term limit, that should have been gone years ago. Which is, again, it goes to us not being educated and understanding that you need to be able to have people with term limits so you can prevent this, because it's going to be a constant battle that's going to always go this way. So all this is just retaliation going back and forth.
Right.
And you got a whole bunch of people that set in their ways in House and Senate that are going to do nothing but go back and forth to each other. And if you don't vote in the local elections, understand that those local elections do have some push and some pull for those congressional seats, those politicians, those mayors and things like that. They can get into the ears of those state representatives and things like that, because guess what? They all meet at different times or within their respective community. I know it's because we have an area where we would have quarterly lunches. You have your state senators, you have your mayors, you have chambers of commerce, all that will come on out, and they would talk, fellowship, exchange ideas, talk about all different types of updates. But you get the right people in place, you can help influence, and not just negatively influence, but positively influence, and really lobby for some change.
I have a question. Actually, I have two for you, Judge Jones. The first one, of course, like you previously served as the criminal justice chair for the NAACP, correct?
Yes.
In Grand Prairie. Now, my question is, when you have people like myself or Sarah on there that don't have a deep political roots or deep background, did you receive flack from that? Oh, he a judge, he for us. Did you? If so, how did you overcome that?
You talking about after I became a judge? Because when I served on that chair, I stopped serving on the chair about a couple of years before I became a judge.
Okay.
But you talking about nowadays now?
Yeah, but that's still part of your bio. Don't you guys have to do a bio, correct? Like somebody can look you up, your bio, to see your history, your career, your education. That's on there. So in retrospect, since I asked it wrong, I put the horse before the carriage. Do you receive flack at work or feel like you're looking at things biased or pro-black, what's best for everyone as a whole?
Only time I received flack when people going up with an agenda and then they didn't get what they want. At the end of the day, I'm elected to serve and enforce the law. I may not agree with how the laws are, but that's my job. But being a justice of the peace is more of a court where it's plain day is you're providing justice and the end of justice to people who are not represented by attorneys and by any lawyers. But so a lot of times, if I do receive flack, it's because, and this is completely honest. I'm very blunt, straight to the point. I've had a recent case. It was an eviction case from an individual that actually was a holdover. Holdover meaning that she was at the end of the lease and it's time for you to go, but you decided to still stay there. And that person was milking the system and was working the system filing all type of affidavits through the local carriers, CDC moratorium that everybody heard that holds off the evictions, was really working the system. And she felt I was biased because, I'm giving perspectives on both sides. The landlord has a property that they want to receive compensation of money on. And if they don't have anybody there, they're not receiving money, because you have actually elderly people, or you have people who usually can use that property as primary income. And so, it just wasn't in their favor, and wasn't happy about it. But at the end of the day, you got to do justice be fair on both sides, because you do have some landlords, on the other hand, that will wrongfully lock you out, evict you, and do all the thing up under the sun, especially a lot of these multifamily unit places. So you got to make sure you have a balance to understand who's keeping it real, who's following the law, which is the first and foremost thing, and who's just shooting a shot at you.
Okay, I know I said two. One more. So with mental health, and this is either Dr. Jones too. I know we had a conversation about this as well. He was very educational, but with the Black men and within the Black community, mental health isn't pushed. So if you're sitting a case, I know you talk about evictions and things of that nature, because that was your main focal. So as a justice of the peace, if you had a case come before you where it was a shoplifting case, and you took a look at this individual and clearly they're not stable, or can you recommend, or do you recommend some type of treatment and come back before you after a certain amount of time showing completion, or do you just follow the law because that's what you're executive of that, or do you follow that in 30 days? How do you balance?
Okay, well, that's a good question. We typically don't have those cases, but I'll tell you what we do. I do actually sign mental health warrants. So you have individuals that will get referred from law enforcement agency or members of the community. They may have mom, sister, brother that literally not taking their medicine, or hearing things, saying things, people not there, stuff like that. I'll come in. I will interview them with an ex parte hearing. That means with just one person there, and determine if that person needs to go to a mental institution. I sign those pretty frequently, and actually I'm working with our local one of our local cities, because that's one of the second not crime, but second most domestic issues that they currently have in the city, which is so we're working on trying to see if there's some type of program or some type of fast track or something that law enforcement can kind of help push them over there. But to answer your question in regard to a person that comes before me with a case, I normally don't have those, but in the event, if somebody was to come before me and I don't think that they're knowledgeable or they're not in the right mind, then what I would more likely do is I would appoint them an attorney to represent them for that case. Because typically we don't handle shopping, but we do handle bad checks. We handle Class C misdemeanors, cases like that. But yeah, typically if they're not in the right mind, then it's my duty to make sure they have fair representation, and we would appoint attorney.
Okay. And it sounds like you guys are going to go through what Doc Jones was saying, and between you to where the point where some people probably knowing that, you have a name for sending people to a mental institute, not coming to court or not, and running before fear of being locked up. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. So that's just
these questions about the about this voter suppression and voter expansion laws. We'll cover both of those. It's a couple questions that the audience is asking. I've been ignoring them long enough, but here are two questions from them. The first is what material is available to help educate the people in regards to understanding policies/laws when it comes to voting locally? Can you answer that for us, Dr. Jones?
In terms of voting locally, I guess you would just have to look at your state statutes. I know here in the state of Florida, you can go to the Florida.gov website, and all of the different statutes are on there with everything, including voting. But from a voter education standpoint, what I would say, I think that, and one of the things that I'm going to be doing as I begin my listening tours we're going to do voter education first, and then voter registration, and then thirdly, voter participation, because it's important for people to understand, first, be educated on what they're voting for and how these things can have an adverse effect before you just push the voter registration. Because if you have uneducated voters in the booth, then ultimately they still don't recognize what they're looking for. They're only paying attention to a name or a party.
Right.
That's my point. Going down and just clicking Democratic. I get flack about this all the time because I'm not Democratic or Republic. I'm pro-Black, and I vote for what I feel is best for, my people as a whole. But you'll find issues where you will have people just either blue or red. They don't know what's going on. They don't know the effects of their vote, and just because it's on a Democratic ticket, they'll punch it. So while we have voter turnout, we can see where they trying to enforce these Jim Crow laws because they feel like people are just here and voting for things and don't know why. So they, kind of try to make it seem like we're all dumb and not educated, and that we shouldn't be allowed to vote because we don't know what we're voting for. That's my take on it.
Well, Peaches, I'll submit this to you guys. And if you ask an average citizen, what do you expect, or what would you like for me to do as a candidate for you? Most people can't tell you, because they only use talking points that they've heard for generations. But if you actually sit down and somebody would have asked you, what is it that you want me as a candidate to do for you, Peaches, specifically for you to improve your quality of life? If it's not healthcare, if it's not education or taxes, those cliche responses, most people can't tell you. So then it makes it difficult, and it's make it easy for a charismatic candidate to convince them of why they need to vote for them. So that education piece goes much deeper than just those issues that I just addressed.
The main one.
That's what I was going to say about that's where the education comes in at. Next question is from another show favorite, Mr. Dane Thomas. He asks, in the area of voting, is there a targeted audience? Dr. Jones.
Oh, I was going to see if the judge was going to take it since I spoke so.
Yeah. I mean, simple, and voting, it is target audience. Right. I mean, depending on where you're at, I mean, the state down to the county, you have each party that will want to put a candidate in place to push their agenda. So yes, that is it. Local elections, local politics, you have a person that wants to run for whatever reason, whether it's their own personal agenda or it's an agenda for the place they're serving. Yes, simple, yes.
Do you believe that the federal level and the state level officials or people running for government puts specific people in place based on the demographics to push their agenda?
Usually, yes. But usually in parties. Your Republican or your Democratic Party, whatever it is, they do put people in place. Sometimes they put people in place to take somebody out. Sometimes they put people in place because they want a person in. I mean, based off Democrats in the area. So if there's a need, like anything else, whether it's business, keeping it real, if it's business and I want to satisfy their need or their want, I'm going to put somebody in place to do it. So yes.
Yeah, to speak their language. Say if you live in like a Black demographic or a younger demographic or a multicultural person, it kind of having. I feel like the more somebody can relate or someone looks like them, the better the turnout is.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, but go ahead. I'm sorry, Dr.
No, I didn't want to interrupt your thought. Go ahead.
No, just local elections. No, not local elections have the lowest turnout. So you may have like 3 to 5% of population turnout, and then when you have a certain group around us in the area that knows who the movers and shakers is, they can put whoever they want in there, and then everybody else, again, they're going to be woke and go back to sleep. So
yeah.
Go ahead, Dr. J.
Yeah. So in my district, it historically has been a red district since this county was established in 1858, 163 years ago. There has never been a Black state representative, which is problematic. My community or my district is predominantly white, Republican to be exact, 79.5% 9% of the population is white, only 10.9 is black. And when you talk about the Republican percentage, is extremely high. So I've been told by members of the Republican Party that, hey, if you run Republican, we guarantee you that you'll win. You have what it takes. But because you are running on the Democratic ticket, then you're fighting an uphill battle. So they definitely try to find people that they can groom, people who they believe that will represent their party. I don't know what about me said that I even be interested in that, but at the same time, because after the election day is over, I still got to wake up to myself, and my moral convictions won't allow me to just sit back and play along, just get along. So to answer that question, yes, they do have a target audience in terms of who they want to represent. But what I'm looking to do is really lead change here in this district in more ways than one, because my message is one of inclusion instead of exclusion. And when you don't have fair representation for even at 10.9% black population we have here, that's a problem for me. So for the last, I don't know how many decades, there have only been people that represented a certain population of the people. And that's why it's time to change that stuff, but not just here in Clay County or Florida, because we all know that Florida's a red state. We should be doing this all across the country.
That's a fact.
What's your guys' take on gentrification? And
That's
stopping that?
Right.
Okay, so before you guys answer that question, I also do real estate, Judge Jones. I might want to holler at you later about that. But a lot of people think that that gentrification is has a racial identity when it actually has a political identity.
Yeah.
And that's what I want the gentleman to speak on, is the political identity of gentrification. Don't rush.
Go ahead, Dr. J.
Yeah, because you over there.
You look at your
No. Yeah, I was trying to pass it to the judge.
Okay.
Yeah. So here's the thing: when it comes to gentrification and the political power that comes along with it, because it brings in more dollars to certain communities, and ultimately those communities thrive. But so you're right, Mark. It's not necessarily a racial component to it, but it's all about power in those districts where you have more influence. Then quite naturally, you're going to try to keep more money and create more opportunities than in lower economic areas. So, but there's a way that you can have a balance, and that's going to be something that I'm going to have to take a real close look at as I move forward, because again, I don't know enough of it to speak intelligently on it to where, I'll be speaking in truth.
Okay.
So,
my question is, I'm from a place called Huff on the east side of Cleveland, and we're renowned Cleveland Clinic as not maybe maybe a half a mile from this place, if that, and I'm being generous when I say that. And I grew up impoverished, of course, so there was a lot of projects and a lot of mom and pop stores and, apartment buildings and low income housing that was sufficient to house. Well, actually, it was the first people that moved in there were white. However, it's predominantly black community. But Cleveland Clinic has came in. They've been there for forever, since I can remember, but they begin expanding. So they're buying up all of the houses, and like the mom and pops and the older people or the impoverished people, they're pushing them into other communities and where they can afford to live, and they're pushing them out of those communities. So, what is your take on that? How do you counter that so that we're not creating another cesspool of crime for public gain or for power, because that's what it does.
Well, are they using eminent domain to accomplish that?
You know, say for instance, like they're drug free. Again, things that has happened in with the police and law enforcement. You know, in Cleveland, when somebody has a house and it's drug activity or gang activity is in there, they kick the door in, they raid it, they board it up, put the drug free sign on there. You know, people lose that or don't pay it. You can. It's so bad in Cleveland that if you pay the taxes on a house, you own these houses. So you go in, you bid, you pay the back taxes, and you own a house that may be worth a significantly amount. We have people getting these houses for $1,100, $10,000, $12,000. So if you have a big corporation and they're stealing all of these, they don't have to do nothing. They can sit on those properties, and if somebody dies, no one's paying the taxes. Just different things. They're going in and buying these houses and pushing up the property value so that even if they build that house up and keep building the houses up, it costs the value to go up again, and those taxes. So where the people could afford it, is making the cost of living too high to afford, which again is pushing them to other neighborhoods. So I feel like in order to preserve some history and some culture, it should be a amount that a person can buy in. You know, it should only be a certain percentage that these big corporations and these big businesses should be able to come into a neighborhood and purchase and have their corporate social responsibility be to uplift these neighborhoods, because they leave that out of there,
Can I comment to that? And so when you talk about that percentage, that goes back to city government.
Mm-hmm.
That goes back to your planning and zoning commission. They go back to the strategic plan of the city on where they're going to go at. They go to their future comprehensive plan, the economic plan and stuff like that. So to be honest, and I'm going to go back to talk about being educated, now I've become educated where I'm wanting to start me a business, besides the real estate company. I want to start buying these properties because guess what? If they're doing it, we're behind the curve, and we should have been doing it because we have Asians community. We have I would say the Indian community, I mean by Afghanistan, a lot of Israelis, things like that. A lot of people that are not even from the United States come here with $1,000. They work, they buying all hard, and they buy and get into commercial real estate or whatever real estate and buy all these big places. So really, that goes back to us as our own, race or ethnicity or whatever, that we should become more educated so we can start buying these things. Because then it goes back to, I understand the poverty portion, I understand all of that, but at the same time, we're too busy trying to sit around here and get a seat at the table when we should go ahead and be the leg of the table.
Yeah.
Or we should have our own table. So that go back to, at the end of the day, they go back to us on what we're going to do with that, because we can talk about all day. A city going to do what it's going to do regardless, politically, whoever's going to be in charge. But we're sitting back talking about all this stuff happening, but we're not getting in to actually doing anything. And it's more than going to city council. It's more than just, it's deeper than that,
Yeah.
And when we talk about gentrification, I'm going to finish up real quick. And I know Oak Cliff. Anybody, have y'all heard of Oak Cliff?
I have
It's a part of, top level, Dallas. So Dallas has a part of it called Oak Cliff. Oak Cliff is a big spread all the way. I saw a previous map that I had shared a long time ago. And it was, honestly, a lot of the white Americans that talked about move here to Oak Cliff and things like that. Very historical, like in the 1800s, whatever the case may be. And then guess what? They moved out when a lot of minorities started moving in. They started moving to different areas. And then of the areas, and those areas out there cost a little bit more. And then up here, the property taxes are down. But guess what? What they're starting to do is move back in to preserve their original community that they started, that we've been staying there for a while. And guess what? They're using their brand, and they're getting here and making these businesses, and they're buying up this real estate. They're constructing these multifamilies. So the stuff we're complaining about is the stuff that's really embedded that we should be on top of or in front of. But that's my perspective.
Now that goes back into, like we say, the big agendas, like he said, the ones that those are the what can I do for you. That goes back to the education and what is being taught and translated. You know, it's not a lot of generational wealth from a Black perspective to kind of teach that and pass it down. So these are things that need to be put on the school you know
Yes.
list.
Yes.
You know, teaching
Yes.
about the power of credit, you know,
And
education,
the curriculum.
Right.
you know, because unless you come from someone, and we learning this at a late age, so
Yes.
it's us trying to instill something in our children that we're fighting against ourselves, because like Damon Thomas says, his child is going to go to school and these children are in the best Nikes, you know, the Balenciagas, and you're here teaching your child about the power of a dollar. So, you know, either they're going to love you and despise you so much, and I mean want to make you happy, so they're going to dive into that because they're looking for that you know, the pat on the back that you get from, you know, when you excel from your
Yes, you're
parents,
right.
or you're going to fall into the roast on the back of the bus. And now you want, you know, the parents, if everybody isn't on the same page and teaching the same thing and pushing the same dialogue up, we gonna find these children that about 14, 15, they gonna fall wherever the cars lay. And
Yeah.
it's just
Well,
education
Peaches,
putting these plans in these communities and at these multi-purpose center. Of course, we have the little yeah, come on, get your CPR card and go be a CNA. We got those. You know, we have little financial literacy, but it's not going to teach you anything to get out and get ahead and be competitive with someone who's learned this. So again, that education is major, and it got to start from the household, bring it into the community, and push it outwards that way in order to push our youth up and level the playing field a little.
So
Dr.
Peaches,
Jones,
what I would say, yeah, Peaches, what I would say, we can't just be a bunch of dumb people holding smartphones, right?
Yeah.
We got to put those smartphones to use. We are quick to look up. Man, yeah, thank you. To put them down, we're quick to look up stats. We're quick to look up anything that doesn't really teach us anything, just to prove a point. But all that same information that you just spoke of, it's on those smartphones. So either we're going to be smart people holding smartphones, or we're just going to be a bunch of dummies holding smartphones, just to say we have them. So that responsibility lies on self, and that's, like you said, it starts in the house. You don't have to be a scholar in order to empower your children with knowledge. But if we're waiting on the education system to do it, they already are restricted, and they only have an hour. So, you know, really about 45 minutes to teach their own course. So I say that's the ownership part that belongs to us.
Yeah. Do you remember like home economics and shop and stuff in school? Those things right there. For instance, my daughter, she's a pre-med. She goes to Florida State. She's doing a class where she's, of course, there she's using a smartphone. She's raising a child. And it's one of her psychology classes. So there's choices that they're doing, like how to teach them, what to work on, what to focus on. And there's algorithms in place for this class. And right now, her child got a matching tattoo with her boyfriend, and she got her caught smoking cigarettes, like different things. Where she's
as a parent,
like, well, mommy, this was my options, and I picked this, and this. You know, I feel like if we know that our children are prone to these video games like The Sims, you know, different reality role playing games and things like that, just like we incorporate Coco Melon. Hey, you want to watch this? Be quiet in the back seat while we drive. You know, those are little things like that, are little tidbits and little apps that can be developed so that, you know, we're preparing them without them even knowing. Because if they know this is a chore, and they, you know, they're not really going to be really susceptible of, you know, learning what we're trying to put in front of them.
Well, that whole dialogue is definitely a reason of why we should vote local. because that has to do with your school superintendents. It has to do with your local officials, judges, and so forth and so on.
The lesson
And,
plans.
and unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to get into these numbers. You know what I'm saying, that I had on standby because we've run out of time, unfortunately. So we're going to have to shut it down. You know, I mean, I ain't want to really have to come over here like that. But man, let me tell you something. I really do appreciate the fervent dialogue, the education, and definitely Peaches with her passionate self with how she feels about how she feels about politics and all of the things that go forward. You see, sometimes I'll be having the hey, hold up. She'll just keep riding out,
But
boy.
anyway, I appreciate it, and like always, anytime that we're on here with Dr. J, I always get gain a wealth of knowledge or have notes that I wrote in the highlighter. So when I hang up, I'm gonna use the smartphone. I will be the dummy with the smartphone and look these things up so that I can further educate myself and understand these on a grander level. I appreciate it.
Hey, so before we get out of here, first of all, I want to say, excuse me, again, thank both of you for giving me your time, giving us your time. Judge Jones, if you have any parting shots that you would like to give, you can do so now.
Well, I guess I'll go. I got to go and sign off. I got the kids up here, and
Yeah,
they're ready
yeah,
for me to. They're ready for me to, cook something.
yeah. Make something happen.
Yeah, I don't really have much. As it's a pleasure to be on here. Thank you very much. And I actually had met him, Noah and I, at a black expo that empowers black people.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of how he got me here. But I don't really have much to say. I mean, is this where are we streaming at? I know it's through podcasts. Or
Yeah,
what's
right.
your
We're
audience?
streaming live right now on Facebook and YouTube.
Oh, okay, excellent. All right.
Right.
So if there's anybody that's actually in the Dallas areas and you know who I am, go to judgemikejones.com. You can kind of get a little bit more about me. But but it's a pleasure going to be on here. Great conversation, especially with Dr. J over there. Did you play basketball, Dr. J?
That's what I was thinking about too.
Hey, that man got a sports bone in his body. You hear me?
No.
Yeah, so I was actually coincidentally I was in Florida February because my cousin plays for the Kansas City Chiefs, so we was down there in Florida. I think it was in Tampa, so it was cool down there. But man, on cool, Dr. J, man, good luck, and I'm praying for you. I know you're gonna pull on off. It's gonna be a battle. All I can recommend is make sure you knock on them doors. That's what's gonna put you up in there. But
we can exchange your guys' information after we go off of live.
Sure.
So
Sure.
Keep that connection.
Most definitely. But it's a pleasure. Sincere pleasure, Peaches. Pleasure, Dr. J. I got to sign off. I cook some food because these kids they jumping all over the place.
All right, guys.
Y'all have a good one.
Thank you. Have a good
Have a good one. All right.
Thank you. Thank you so much. All right.
Yeah. Dr. J, let the people know, where they can find you and how they can support your cause.
So you can find me. I have a multitude of websites, but the most important one right now would be www.electjones2022.com. There is a link on there where you can donate. One of the things that I certainly want to make people aware of, even candidates with the greatest message don't typically win, because what most people don't recognize is that it takes campaign contributions in order to push you forward. The Republican candidate who is now the state representative, last year he raised $93,000, and his Democratic opponent only raised about $3,000. So there was a $90,000 difference in contributions. So the Democratic candidate couldn't even fight back in terms of commercials and all of the advertising that goes into it. Right. So what I would ask anyone that's watching, if you believe in what I talked about here this evening and just want to be supportive, go to www.electjones2022.com and you can make a donation right from that link, and again, that goes directly to the campaign. But in terms of one thing I want to leave you guys with and this is for all the viewers. If you're dissatisfied with the state of politics in not just the nation, but in your county, in your state, I would encourage you to get involved because you can make the change that's necessary. We need more representation of people like us who understand our struggles as well as the conditions within our communities so that we can really impact that change. Because again, sitting back complaining about it, it's not going to do any of us any good. And the beautiful thing about being a state representative, some of those laws that Judge Jones was talking about, I'll have the opportunity to write. Right. Okay. And then it'll be up to them to impose them in the courtroom. So that's the beauty of being in a state legislator, because you're a policymaker for your state at that point. But my ultimate goal is to get to U.S. Senate. So this is just a stepping stone. And thank you guys so much for inviting me on, Mark and Peaches. I enjoyed the conversation. I enjoyed the questions. And anytime that you guys want me back on, let me know in advance, because I am moving a lot these days, but I appreciate the support.
And definitely have to get some of the merch as well. So I'll be visiting your page because your hat matched my shirt today. See?
Oh, good deal.
Yeah, definitely. And listen, I know that there's at least about 3 other podcasts that are watching this. Please, you know what I'm saying, do what you can to support Dr. Jones in his quest for election by sharing also that web address so that we can garner some people. $5 or $500, goes a long way. So please, if you can, also keep that website nearby so that you can promote that on your podcast as well. Again, Dr. Jones, I appreciate you coming out, man. Peaches, you know how we get down. It's a Black-owned podcast, man. We'll holler at y'all next Thursday.
All right. So thanks a lot. All right.
I don't hate, I motivate my people to elevate and rise above the fray to show God is great. Not blasphemous, but magnanimous, without any animus to show that they're fabulous. With a little bashfulness being the catalyst for adult learners to conquer